In the stillness of night, whispers echo where people no longer walk, where shadows remember what history forgot. These are the stories of the places where the veil thins. This is the truth behind the Haunting Podcast. In the early hours of February 16th, 1981, a man named Arne Johnson took his fiancée's landlord by the throat and stabbed him to death. It was a crime so shocking that it would come to be known as the Demon Murder, a courtroom battle that pitted the law against the occult. David and Debbie Glatzel, siblings who would become the epicenter of a terrifying demonic possession, were living next door to Arne and his fiancée, Michelle. It began with strange noises, bruises, even voices that were not their own. Ed and Lorraine Warren were called in.
We were contacted by Father Dennis, who at that time was pastor of St. Joseph's Church in Brookfield, Tony. And the call came in, and he spoke about a young boy who he had been trying to help, but recognized it as a case of possession.
In December 1980, they arranged an emergency exorcism at St. Michael's Church in Stratford, Connecticut.
David was in the very beginning stages of demonic possession. We went to the house this hot night. I can remember like the steam and the moisture coming off the ground. It was a weird night when we arrived there. First, Ed tripped going up the steps into the house. And Dr. Gingrasso made kind of a laughing comment, and he tripped and fell too. And when we got in the house, we were sitting there at the table talking. Now you would watch David, and he would be doodling, drawing or something like that, and he'd be concentrating on what he was doing. And then he would look up, and it was no longer a little 11-year-old boy.
Over 9 harrowing hours, the demon ravaged young David, forever scarring the family. Arne Johnson, Michelle's live-in fiancé, had witnessed the torment. When the demon turned its fury on Debbie, Arne intervened, opening himself to a force he could not control. When Arne was charged with first-degree manslaughter, his defense team made an unprecedented request to argue demonic possession in court. Prosecutors ridiculed the idea. Expert witnesses, both clerical and psychiatric, clashed over the nature of Arne's actions. Was it a psychotic break or something far darker? On March 3rd, 1981, the jury returned a verdict of guilty on the lesser charge of first-degree manslaughter, sparing Arne from a life sentence but sending shockwaves through the paranormal community. Carl Glatzel Jr. doesn't believe his brother and Arne were possessed. He believes his mother used Somanex, a sleeping aid to control all the boys and his dad. He believes that the effects it can have on people, many of which could be attributed to the supposed demonic possession David experienced, which included mood swings and hallucinations. He now believes that David had just enough Somanex over the years that he started to see things, or at least he thought he did. The Arne Johnson case remains the only known US legal trial to attempt a demonic possession defense. It inspired countless books, documentaries, and Hollywood blockbusters, forcing the world to ask, can the supernatural ever be proven? Whether you see it as myth or reality, the Arne Johnson case endures as a chilling reminder: some doors once opened cannot be closed. She doesn't walk, she doesn't talk, but those who've met her say she watches and she waits. Locked behind glass in a quiet Canadian museum, Mandy the doll is said to cause disembodied cries, flickering lights, and even psychological distress.
Mandy belonged to a couple in England who had twins who died of polio.
Some call her cursed, others possessed, but one thing is certain: once you meet Mandy, you'll never forget her.
1991, Lisa, the donor of the doll, brought her in, and she says that she would hear a baby cry down the basement. Go down the basement, the window was open and the curtains would be flowing back and forth, and there was no baby down there.
Mandy's exact origin is shrouded in mystery. Experts believe she was crafted in Europe sometime between 1910 and 1920. She's made of porcelain, with cracked glass eyes and a delicate pink bonnet, worn now with age. But it's not Mandy's craftsmanship that makes her famous. It's what happened after she arrived at the Quesnel and District Museum in British Columbia in 1991.
Somebody from Calgary came over here. She was videoing her. Mm-hmm. The light would go on and off and on and off. And I thought, oh, she's fooling with the camera. Then she would point to another exhibit and it'd be fine.
According to museum records, a local woman brought the doll in, visibly shaken. She refused to keep it in her home any longer. She claimed to hear crying at night, echoes of a baby wailing in the basement. She'd find windows open that she'd closed, objects moved, and, most chilling of all, Mandy appearing in rooms she'd never placed her in. After Mandy arrived, the museum staff noticed immediate, unexplained events. Lunches went missing from the fridge, papers would be thrown across the floor, electronics malfunctioned in rooms near Mandy's display case, and, multiple times, staff reported hearing a soft phantom cry coming from the doll's vicinity, especially when the museum was closed. Why is Mandy haunted? Several theories have surfaced over the years. One tale says she was buried with a child who died tragically. Others believe a spirit attached itself to the doll due to intense trauma, perhaps abuse, loss, or rage. Paranormal investigators who've studied Mandy say her energy fluctuates, peaceful one day, volatile the next. Could she be a vessel? Or is it simply collective fear giving rise to folklore?
I personally feel that there's something there. Can't figure it out. There's something bizarre. Something weird at times. Something not sure. But something. I'm not going to deny that there isn't anything.
Today, Mandy remains on display at the Quesnel Museum, safely behind glass. Visitors are warned to be respectful. Some leave her small gifts, bracelets, ribbons, even apology notes. Museum staff say the activity has lessened over the years, but never entirely stopped. Dolls have long been objects of comfort, but also fear. Mandy, with her porcelain silence and endless stare, reminds us that the past never fully lets go. Whether haunted by memory, spirit, or story, Mandy waits, patient and still, forever watching. Have you seen Mandy? Would you dare visit her in person? Let us know in the comments. Built in blood, bound by betrayal, haunted by horrors too dark for legend alone. Welcome to Leap Castle, the most haunted stronghold in all of Ireland.
Yeah, we do all the time. But it's all, like, we've never felt threatened by any of it. Like, they've never interfered with us or made life difficult in any way. But they do let us know they're here. And that's okay with us, if it stays that way. You know, if it was any other way, we wouldn't be here, to be honest.
For centuries, this fortress has whispered its secrets through cold stone walls, unseen hands, and screams that echo in the night. Leap Castle, known in Irish as Laimwe Panain, meaning O'Bannon's Leap, dates back to the early 13th century. It was built by the O'Bannon clan under the shadow of a terrible legend. According to local law, two brothers from the clan leapt from the rocky outcrop to decide who would rule. Only one survived. The winner laid the foundation stone, but what followed was centuries of power, war, and betrayal. The O'Carroll clan took control of the castle, and that's when the true bloodshed began. The most infamous room in Leap Castle is the Bloody Chapel. In the 1500s, the O'Carrolls, a ruthless clan of warlords, turned the chapel into a chamber of execution.
And so the McMahons were invited back here. They were given a banquet and paid But the banquet was held up in the bloody chapel, and when they got them up, I suppose they sat them down and gave them wine, but they had poisoned their wine. So they killed all 29 of them in one foul swoop, and there's actually horrific accounts of the night. Now, maybe they were on something stronger themselves, but they went into this frenzy and they started cutting their heads off, and they kicked them out the windows and around the barn and all that. There's some incredible accounts of that night. So that would have helped give the bloody chapel its name.
One night during Mass, one O'Carroll brother, an ambitious warrior, brutally murdered his own sibling, a priest, by plunging a sword into his chest on the altar. Since then, strange lights have glowed from the chapel at night. Visitors hear chanting in Latin, and the ghost of the slain priest is said to wander, blood still staining his robes. Hidden behind a wall near the chapel lies the oubliette, a secret shaft used as a dungeon. Captives were thrown in, impaled on iron spikes, and left to die in agony. When workmen discovered it in the 1900s, they found over 150 human skeletons. It wasn't just a prison, it was a slow death sentence. Some were left alive for days. The screams were said to haunt the upper floors. Even today, visitors report a sense of overwhelming dread near the oubliette. Cameras malfunction, cold spots appear. Some even claim to hear whispered pleas from below.
I suppose we tend to hear them at night time a lot. Now, it's not a nighttime thing only, but it's like footsteps. It's like people walking around. We hear doors opening and closing. Another thing we hear, it's like a crowd of people, say, in another room, all talking. Now, you can't actually make out anything that's being said, but the thing about it is, we say you heard it down there someplace, and you were sure it was coming from there. But if you go there, it's not. It's always someplace else. You're never at it. And the footsteps we hear aren't on the floors we have now, or the doors we hear opening and closing aren't our doors. Now, we see a lot of them as well. Sometimes it'd be nearly as clearly as I see you now. Sometimes it's like a cloud, or like an aura around them, or maybe just around parts of them. Another thing we experience, it's like shadows flashing in the corner of your eye. And there's a lady down here that touches off people. And a lot of our visitors now experience that. Even yesterday, now there was a lady here, and it went a little bit further there. She felt her arm was pulled. A huge amount of our guests experienced that. You know. And the thing about it is, okay, we've had a few hasty exits, but generally people amaze themselves because they're so calm about it, you know. They don't feel threatened by it, even though it's possibly a first-time experience for most of them, like, you know.
But Leap Castle's most terrifying entity is not a ghost. It's something older. Known as the Elemental, this malevolent force is said to predate the castle itself. Descriptions vary. Some see a shadow figure with decaying skin and hollow eyes. Others feel its presence as a sudden stench of sulfur and death. Mildred Darby, a former resident and paranormal investigator, was one of the first to encounter it in the early 1900s. Many believe the elemental was summoned through dark rituals or ancient druidic energy tied to the land. Today, Leap Castle is privately owned and open to visitors, if they dare. Paranormal teams have documented cold spots, objects moving on their own and chilling EVPs. Doors slam shut, unseen footsteps echo down empty halls, and people report being pushed by invisible hands. Leap Castle isn't just haunted by its history, it embodies it. Every stone is stained with betrayal, blood, and belief in the unseen. Whether it's the restless priest in the bloody chapel, the screams from the oubliette, or the elemental's rotting breath, this is a place where the past refuses to rest. In a world obsessed with proof, Leap Castle offers only evidence of emotion, fear, sorrow, anger, and something ancient that still lingers. So, would you walk its halls, sit alone in the chapel, look into the oubliette and feel what watches from below? Because in Leap Castle, the ghosts don't just haunt, they remember. Located above the Rhine River in western Germany, Reichenstein Castle stands like a fortress from another world, its towers steeped in legend, its stones heavy with the weight of betrayal, blood, and the restless dead. This is not just a castle, it's a mausoleum of damned souls, a place where the ghosts of night still roam and the cries of the condemned echo through the stone halls. Welcome to Reichenstein Castle, where history and horror collide. Reichenstein Castle dates back to the 11th century, originally built as a strategic fortress along the trade-rich Rhine River. It passed through the hands of several powerful families, but its most infamous residents were the Raubritter, or robber knights. These feudal warlords terrorized passing merchants, extorting tolls and ambushing ships. Chief among them was Dietrich von Hohenfels, a ruthless knight whose legacy would curse the castle for centuries. Dietrich and his family were eventually captured by imperial forces. According to legend, the emperor ordered all 12 male members of the von Hohenfels family to be beheaded on the same day, despite pleas for mercy. One after another they fell, until only Dietrich remained. As the executioner raised his blade, Dietrich allegedly cursed the castle and swore vengeance from beyond the grave. Soon after the executions, strange events began to plague the castle. Guards reported phantom footsteps echoing in the halls. Visitors were gripped by intense feelings of dread. One chronicler in the 1600s described a procession of headless men marching silently through the courtyard beneath a blood-red moon. The story goes that on the anniversary of their deaths, the von Hohenfels brothers return, headless yet still armored, reliving their final moments for eternity. Today, Reichenstein Castle is a historic museum and hotel, but guests still report unnerving activity. Suits of armor clanking on their own, whispers in the chapel with no one nearby, doors slamming in empty rooms, and most chilling, phantoms seen walking the battlements at dusk, then vanishing into thin air. But perhaps the most famous ghost is that of Dietrich himself. He is often seen as a tall, shadowy figure roaming the castle grounds, carrying his own severed head under his arm. Witnesses claim he appears only to the disrespectful, those who mock the legends or disturb the castle's more sacred spaces. Reichenstein Castle is more than a relic. It's a threshold, a space between life and death, between history and haunting. Some believe the castle's very stones are stained with the emotional residue of betrayal, fear, and violent ends. Others say the von Hohenfels souls remain trapped, seeking peace they will never find. Castles are often romanticized, symbols of nobility, chivalry, and grandeur. But Reichenstein reminds us that the past has teeth, and some legends still walk. In the heart of Buenos Aires lies a city within a city, a place of eternal sleep and restless spirits. La Recoleta Cemetery is more than a final resting place. It's a marble maze of secrets, sorrow, and sightings of the dead who refuse to be forgotten. With over 6,400 tombs, the whispers never end, and some souls, it seems, never truly left. Established in 1822, La Recoleta is Argentina's most famous cemetery, a sprawling necropolis reserved for the elite. Politicians, generals, poets, and presidents lie beneath its Gothic facades, but behind the grandeur is a darker layer, a place haunted not just by history, but by tragedy, betrayal, and things the living were never meant to see. One of Recoleta's most enduring legends is that of Rufina Cambaceres, a beautiful 19-year-old socialite who was buried alive. Declared dead in 1902 after collapsing suddenly, Rufina was interred in a lavish mausoleum. Days later, workers heard strange noises from within. When her tomb was opened, scratch marks were found on the inside of the coffin, and Rufina's fingers were bloodied and broken. Since then, visitors have reported seeing a young woman in white wandering between tombs, her eyes wide with confusion. They say she appears at dusk searching for someone to hear her cries. One of Recoleta's oldest spirits is believed to be a former caretaker who still patrols the grounds. Known only as El Guardian, he's seen near closing time, silently watching visitors from a distance. Guards report feeling tapped on the shoulder, only to find no one there. Others claim they've spoken to a man in uniform who vanishes before their eyes. Tucked in a quiet corner of the cemetery lies the grave of Tomasita, a young girl who died of leukemia in the 1920s. She was buried with her beloved dog. Her spirit, they say, never left. Children visiting the cemetery have spoken of a girl who plays with them, then disappears. Others say they've heard a dog barking near her tomb when no animal is present. Not all spirits in Recoleta are mournful. Some are vengeful, some are cursed. The tomb of David Aleno, a gravedigger who spent decades saving up to be buried among the wealthy, is one such case. Hours after he completed his own tomb, he committed suicide. His keys are still heard jangling at dawn, and some believe his spirit guards the gates, angry that in death, as in life, he was never truly accepted. Visitors to La Recoleta have captured countless unexplained images, apparitions in black, ghostly figures in mourning veils, cold spots that chill the bones. Paranormal investigators have measured high EMF spikes near certain crypts and recorded EVPs with phrases like "Estoy aquí" and "Déjame en paz," "I'm here and leave me alone." La Recoleta is more than a cemetery. It's a living memory, a city of the dead that speaks to the living through cold winds, silent stares and ghostly encounters that defy logic. Whether you come to mourn, admire, or investigate, be prepared. Because the souls of La Recoleta do not rest quietly. They remember, and sometimes they reveal themselves. Would you walk the alleys of La Recoleta at night? Thanks for joining us on the Truth Behind the Haunting podcast. If you enjoyed our journey into the supernatural, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow ghost seekers. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and stay aware of what moves in the shadows.